Kristen's her life screws the whole system up.
As well as their paper.
Steve, are you going to that DDA meeting Thursday?
Yes, or if you want to. you can-
No, that's when I'm going to Detroit.
Okay,
I wish we
yeah, that's fine.
taking that seriously in business.
Okay.
Company. That's. Far from it. Got a lot of people.
I feel your pain. I got company too.
Yes.
Or go to that. Never shut up. I like my sleep.
Hey, next Thursday. She moves back to the sorority house.
Oh,
I might get out back.
mine's supposed to be leaving
With the
tomorrow.
money in and out. Don't invite your friends over until after 11 o'clock.
Gonna go? Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to call the Finance Committee of the whole to order and join me in the pledge, if you would.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Here.
Commissioner Jelazinski.
Here.
Commissioner Marino.
Here.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
Commissioner Holt,
Here.
Commissioner Weber. All present except for Commissioner Weber, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Up next will be approval of the agenda. We'll start with general public comments on agenda items only. We've got a presentation from Community Mental Health for Central Michigan, Brian Krogman, Executive Director, and Jen McNally, Isabella County Chief Clinical Officer. So we welcome them. We have appointments to the Human Rights Committee. And then under committee reports, we've got several business items and a discussion on the fiscal year 2027 budget draft number 4. We have no intergovernmental affairs, no administrative controller issues, no unfinished business, no new business. We'll have general public comment, again, open to any topic you'd like. And then announcements and adjournment. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move Jelazinski.
Support Sweeney.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. And general public comments on agenda items only. Anyone? Okay, seeing no one for general public comment, we'll move right into our presentation, Community Mental Health for Central Michigan.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having us. This is an opportunity for us to do an annual review for community mental health for Central Michigan. It's good to be with you. I'm Brian Krogman, Executive Director for the agency, and with me is Jen McNally, as Tobin indicated, our Chief Clinical Officer for here in Isabella County. So I'll get general kind of agency-wide comments, and then Jen will talk about specific activities related to here in Isabella County. I do have our annual report, fiscal year 2025. Pass those around. How many I grabbed there? A few more going this way. Community Mental Health for Central Michigan, we're a 6-county community mental health agency. There are 46 CMHs in the state of Michigan, and they vary from ours as a 6-county board. There's only 2 others besides us that have that number of counties, a lot of single county CMHs. But each are established. See, the state of Michigan has its statutory responsibility to provide care and support for our vulnerable citizens in our community. And so we serve individuals that have serious and persistent mental illness, intellectual and developmental disability, and we serve children with serious emotional disturbance. We have a 14-member board of directors, so each county commission, so 6 from our county commissioners. I'd like to thank Tobin Pope for his participation, longstanding on our board. And then we also have community representatives. We have individuals who either receive services themselves or maybe they're a family member of somebody. So we really have a good representation of the makeup of our communities. In addition to Isabella, the other counties that we serve include Mecosta and Osceola counties to the west, Clare and Gladwin counties to the north, and then Midland County to the east. We provide a wide array of services, evidence-based treatment to, again, the individuals that I noted with respect to the population served. We have a vision where all individuals in our communities experience healthy and meaningful lives. And so that's kind of our guiding light, so to speak. But we do that, again, by a wide array of services. We have various clinical professional staff that we directly employ. And then we also contract out across our communities with a number of providers. Typically, those providers are helping people with activities of daily living. Maybe it's staffing in an individual's home for much or a portion of the day. People who may need more structured care in adult foster care settings. Certainly, we have contracts with local community hospitals and their psychiatric units when there's a crisis or urgent need. Last year, in total, we served a little bit over 10,000 individuals across the 6 counties. Here in Isabella County, the number was around 2,300 people received services from the agency. We certainly support quite a number of jobs across our 6 counties, over 2,000 really in terms of various aspects. Our agency directly employs about 450, 460 staff, and then the remaining are made up of direct care staff, either full-time or part-time workers in those settings that I mentioned before. We are accredited by the Joint Commission. That's a national accredited body for healthcare organizations. We've held that accreditation for approaching 30 years. In fact, next month we have our scheduled on-site visit from the reviewers. So we'll be going through that process. The budget that we're operating with in our current fiscal year is about $154 million across the 6 counties. Dedicated or allocated to Isabella County is $42 million. That is primarily made up of Medicaid funding. About 92% of our dollars are Medicaid, and that's why we're closely watching at the federal level and how that trickles to the states. The HR 1 or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and some of the work requirements. There's additional or more frequent renewal for Medicaid processes that are in place, and we are concerned about that. Think that may impact our revenues and obviously impact people who are receiving care. But we're funded on what's called a managed care funding model. So everybody in our 6 county who is enrolled in Medicaid, we get a payment for it. And there's different categories based on demographics. Like, one category, for example, is called disabled, aged, and blind. so we get a per member per month payment for that category of individual. There's the Healthy Michigan Plan. The Healthy Michigan Plan is the state's expansion, Medicaid expansion program. And so that's a designation. And that one is one that is falling probably most heavily under the requirements under HR 1. And so we're certainly watching that. The amount that Isabella County provides with respect to local match, it's been the same for 30 years. It's about $216,000, and we're appreciative of that support. It's local dollars, gives us flexibility to meet needs in our communities for people that don't have Medicaid, for example, or called general fund dollars. Those are other sources of funding. Last year when I was here, we were right in the middle of the state's request for proposal for the prepaid inpatient health plans. And those entities, there's 10, they receive the Medicaid dollars from the state. So they hold a contract with the state for managed care, Medicaid services and supports. The state intended to bid that all out. And that went through a whole legal process. Certainly appreciated this board giving a resolution in opposition to that effort. Ultimately, the Court of Claims made several rulings about the request for proposals through the lawsuit process. And essentially, the judge ruled that the request for proposal as it stood at that time was in conflict with the Michigan Mental Health Code. It really upheld the central role of community mental health services programs statutorily in our communities. And the fact that they had the ability to both directly provide services and carry out the services through contractual relationships. One of the important roles that community mental health agencies play is assuring the rights of individuals who are served. Again, as I mentioned, we serve people who are vulnerable citizens, and they sometimes, unfortunately, have their rights violated. They're not treated with dignity and respect. Maybe they have suffered neglect or abuse, various kinds. And we have a system of protections and investigation and substantiations. And that really is without the ability for CMHs to hold contracts with this network of providers. It really strips a lot of the ability for our staff to have that kind of role and be able to do that kind of work. So we were pleased that that was the ruling. The state then, subsequent to that, rescinded the RFP. Fortunately, that's not the end of the story. And so what we've been watching, we've been hearing just rumors that the state intends to reissue an RFP. Haven't seen anything yet, except that there is on the state's website, the Department of Technology Management and Budget, there's a PIHP procurement listed there for August of 2026. It apparently is an estimated time frame. It could be this month, could be next month. We're not quite sure. Again, just hearing bits and pieces. The state's not coming out with anything official on anything right now, but that's something that we're definitely watching. We're in our budget process for fiscal year 2027. Our interest is to support obviously the service array that we currently do and try to recruit and retain staff. And to be honest, it's a challenge. We're facing some challenges to meet get our expenses within the budget in terms of revenue that we have. We're waiting for a August 20th meeting that hopefully is going to shed a little bit of light on what our revenue picture is. We were hoping that would come a lot sooner. It's very difficult to try to put forward a budget that starts October 1st when you're still struggling to understand what the state's going to do with revenues. And we know that our staff have needs So we're trying to balance it all out. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you. Again, I wanted to thank you for your work and your partnership with us. And I'll turn it over to Jen to talk about the good stuff that's happening in Isabella. Thanks.
So at the current time, we are providing services to 1,029 open individuals. So those are the number of consumers who are open in Isabella County receiving our services. And the services that they're receiving at this point in time include, but are not limited to, case management, outpatient therapy, home-based therapy for children and families, clubhouse services, crisis services, employment services, and psychiatric services. And that number doesn't include our school-based services that we're providing within the schools, the jail services we provide, and the individuals that are receiving services who are not quite open to our electronic medical record, which should be sort of a number of those 1,029 consumers, 167 are residing in residential or adult foster care settings, and 22 indicate that they're homeless. 539 are adults who have a primary mental illness diagnosis, and 255 are adults who have a primary intellectual and developmental disability diagnosis. 111 are children with a primary mental illness diagnosis, and 113 are children with a primary intellectual and developmental disability diagnosis. So last year, we had 1,038 at the time of my presentation. This year is 1,029. So our number is just a tad bit lower, but that's pretty pleasing to us. With that, we continue to employ a benefits eligibility specialist staff, and that staff works really closely with our DHHS liaison that we have through our agency to ensure that the individuals who are receiving our services are able to maintain their Medicaid and other benefits, which then helps to reduce impacts on the service delivery that they receive. If they lose their Medicaid services, then that impacts the services that they're able to receive. So we want to make sure that they keep all of the benefits that they are deserving to do. In Isabella County, we continue to implement a team-based care model of providing treatment to the individuals that we serve. Those teams remain the same. Regarding it, we have one team dedicated for individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities, one team specific for children with intensive needs, and then we have 3 teams that work with those with adults and children with primary mental illness diagnosis. We continue to partner with our local court system and offer multisystemic therapy, or MST, to Isabella County youth. This is a program designed to work with teenagers in our community who are at risk of being placed in residential placement, coming back to the community from residential placement, and or was the perpetrator of compromised sexual behavior. And so we continue to achieve the target goals set by the National MST program overseeing them, and we continue to see a large number of referrals coming into that program. It is a very intensive program, so they have very limited caseloads that they can provide. We continue to offer a number of groups to the individuals that we provide services to. Dialectical behavior therapy is one of those groups, which is a group designated for those that have a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. And it's a weekly skills group that teaches emotion regulation, distress tolerance, interpersonal effectiveness, and mindfulness, along with weekly therapy sessions as well. We also offer a co-occurring treatment group, which is for individuals who have both a mental illness and a substance use disorder diagnosis. We have anger management for adults. We began offering a depression and anxiety group during my presentation for last year, and we continue to offer that group. And then additionally, in the last year, we've had 4 staff complete training in family psychoeducation, which is a group specific to working with family members who are living with an individual who has a severe and persistent mental illness. So helping them educate and support those individuals that they love and care for. We also have a number of groups for parents. So we have Parenting Through Change, which is a group that's offered virtually and in person for parents to assist in strategies for dealing with children's behavior. We have a trauma-informed parenting group, which is again offered virtually and in person for parents and caregivers to support their children who've experienced some level of trauma. We've partnered with the Isabella County Child Advocacy Center to provide abbreviated trainings of that within the community. And then we also offer a nurturing parenting program to be able to target different populations within these. So it could be infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. It could be teenage parents. It could be school-age children that we target within those nurturing parenting groups. And during this past fiscal year, we partnered with the Juvenile Drug Court program and are offering a skills group at the courthouse with individuals who are in that program. We continue to have a full-time staff housed at the Isabella County Jail. Kyle is our therapist there, and he provides a number of skills groups to inmates, as well as providing individual therapy sessions upon request from those individuals. New to this year, Kyle partnered with our infant mental health supervisor, Renee, to offer nurturing parenting programs to inmates. So we have a 5-week program for males, 5-week program for females. They just keep rotating it through, and they've had a huge success to offering that program within the jail as well. Tony, our IDD team supervisor, partnered with Michigan Rehabilitation Services, the Arnold Center, and the Lions Club to hold its first Disability Mentoring Day at Mid-Michigan College. And this was a half-day event which focused on skills related to finding and maintaining employment, training pathways for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and the soft skills needed for the workplace. And also how working impacts benefits. And they're going to be hosting that training again this year at Mid-Michigan College in October. We continue to have youth intervention staff in the local schools. They're providing screenings to local students. They provide consultation to the staff and students, as well as different types of educational groups within the school system to provide topics such as self-esteem, managing emotions. And they also started providing QPR, suicide prevention training within the high schools this last year. Lastly, I wanted to end this year presentation discussing our newest program in Isabella County. We received a large grant from MDHHS to expand our mobile crisis services, also known as Intensive Crisis Stabilization Support Services. We refer to it as ICSS, for half of this fiscal year 26, and all of fiscal year 2010. With the support of the agency, we were able to hire a supervisor for that program, Trisha Powell, who comes to us from many experiences of providing crisis services. In May, we hired a crisis professional, bachelor's level staff who is very familiar with our community and the services that we offer. And then in June and July, through the grant dollars that we received, we hired a crisis family peer support staff, as well as law enforcement liaison staff. So the ICSS model is a 2-person response model to dispatch to the community to assist in de-escalation and connecting individuals to mental health services. Our law enforcement liaison is stationed at the Mount Pleasant Police Department and is able to co-respond with law enforcement to address calls which are mental health related. And despite them being housed at the Mount Pleasant Police Department, they are working with all of the local law enforcement departments to be able to respond as assistance is requested. And we're really excited to see, since this is a new program that we just started within the last couple of months, how this program grows over the next year to see the responses that we receive.
Any questions? Yeah.
Do you happen to know who's on the Department of Technology Management and Budget?
I don't know the director's name off the top of my head.
It'd be Michigan Gov.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
check it out.
sure. Yeah, I know
They,
that.
they obstruct a lot of stuff that I know about. Really.
Yeah, the leadership at MDHHS has changed recently. It was Elizabeth Hertel as the director. She left, I think it was June 30th. And now Amy Epke is the person's name, who's the head of MDHHS. And so there's, again, with some of that transition happening, there's questions as to whether or not the state will move forward with a request for proposal. Obviously, there's a election cycle coming up here, so, in November. So that's a question too under a new administration. Is that something that is going to, person want to pursue or not?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, with all the irons in the fire that Jen is coordinating, she's also one of the representatives to the opioid advisory committee.
Yep.
So she is partnering with the county along with other agencies and organizations, so we can wisely use the opioid settlement funds to address opioid use disorder in our county.
Thank you for that. Just a comment, but I'm always amazed, Jen talked about a whole bunch of services, and really there are ways to try and reach and help these vulnerable citizens. And none of this is ever static. It's always, we're reviewing all of the programs all the time for effectiveness. There's changes coming from MDHHS all the time. It's it's always evolving, always changing. It's a good thing. But
Yeah, for sure. And I as well commend Jen and her team at Isabella County, you know, and across our 6 counties too, really, that it is very much a environment where you can have a crisis situation come up at any point, and these are very significant. You know, talk about, you know, suicide or significant issues where people are in crisis, and that can happen right at any point in time, and our staff are there to respond. But we really try to have an environment that's supportive of our staff because of the kinds of things that they're day in and day out handling and dealing with traumas, with, you know, abuses or other crises from a mental health standpoint. So
the other thing I just want to highlight, something you said earlier, is that our local match is $216,000. CMHCM is budgeted to spend 42 million in Isabella County this year, so. Pretty good return on our investment, I would say. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and that will bring us to appointments to boards and commissions. We have 4 members to the Human Rights Committee at-large representative to complete a 3-year term ending September 1st, 2029, or until a successor is appointed. We have 4 applicants for 4 openings. Donna Giuliani has served as chair of that board, and last year did a deep dive into the bylaws. She's been very proactive on that committee. Dr. Chowdhury has been on there as long as I can remember. He's been a long time member of that committee. Russell Hyde's been on it for a little while. Eric P. Davis is a new applicant, and I don't know him, but he does have a very impressive application. So we have those 4 appointments to make next Tuesday. Anybody else want to speak to those or the Human Rights Committee in general? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was also impressed with Eric Davis's qualifications. Look forward to working with him.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, we'll do those appointments next week's board meeting, and under committee reports, item A, Finance Committee, Committee of the Whole, number 1, Commissioner Jelzinski. Present that for us.
So will. Consider ratifying and placing on file the July 31st, 2026 invoice list in the amount of $326,280.89. August 7th, 2026 invoice list, the amount of $522,021.09, and the adjustment list dated July 30th, 2026.
Walk us through those there.
So these 3 lists were sent out to the Board of Commissioners prior to this meeting for your review, discussion, and if you had any questions. On this first page, you'll see all the invoices that total $5,000 or more. And out of the first invoice list that's dated July 31st, the total amount is $326,280.89. The general fund portion of that is $41,385.60. We have in this list 10 items related to the drains office, to Spicer Group, related to the DT wind escrow account, and then also to advanced drainage systems for improvements to the Struble drain. And then we have one for Isabella Corporation for $40,424 for the Herrick recreation area renovations. That was paid for out of their capital improvement fund, which is partially paid for by a grant.
Any questions on that one?
Next one is the August 7th list. Total amount $522,021.09. General fund portion is $160,296.20. Here we've got a few of drains again, but we also have 10 for the Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works. Since we're the fiduciary, this is not general fund dollars going out of this. There's rent, and there's also sub-recipient payments made out of there. We also have the U of M Michigan, University of Michigan Health School for medical examiner fees of $14,935. And then we've got 3 public defender appointment contracts that were paid out as well. And we have the 2 of them from the trial court for McBride Quality Care, $27,300. And Pine View Homes for $10,850 for directly supervised care, which is paid for from the child care fund.
Any questions on the August 7th list?
Next one is the invoice, not the invoice, the adjustments list. This list right here are invoices that were increased or decreased to correct errors made on this one. And there's also ones on here that are on to avoid late fees and to get early payment discounts. And we got the typical ones of DTE Energy, Wind Telecom, and Gordon Food Service on this.
Okay. Any questions on the adjustment lists? Okay, thank you. We'll move that to next week's meeting, and item 2, Commissioner Swaney, take that.
Consider approving the fiscal year 2027 budget and village for the Isabella County Transportation Commission at 0.862 of 1 mil.
Morning.
Morning.
I have previously submitted my budget history to you all. That should be in your packets. I'm Rick Collins. I'm the Executive Director of the Isabella County Transportation Commission. Before we get into the budget, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the number of people we served last year. Last fiscal year, we transported approximately 362,000 trips. We completed those. About 400,000 trips were scheduled. Some number were no-showed or otherwise canceled or whatnot. Of those 362,000 trips, approximately 21% of those were served to people who were either seniors and or disabled or some combination thereof. And about another 20% were for the purposes of to and from education, to give an understanding of what those numbers look at. The other 60% could be for a whole wide variety of things, ranging from medical appointments, shopping, meeting any other kind of service within the area. We service all of Isabella County, including making connections with all of our surrounding counties, including Gratiot. So the need for regionalized transit is increasing, and we're trying to meet those needs with leading resources, I guess. Our budget, as submitted to the state in February of this year, shows a budgeted revenue of about $8.1 million with a budgeted expense a little over that at $8.15 million. We anticipate using our fund balance to balance that budget. The county voters approved up to 1 mil in August of 2004, but in light of that language, we have requested this board to levy 0.862 since 2010, and that continues to be true this year. So our request to the board is to levy 0.862 of that 1 mil to help meet our budgetary needs for the next fiscal year. My budget shows line by line essentially how those expenses will be made. Most of the increases from this year to next year are in personnel. So as I'm sure it's pretty publicly aware right now, we're struggling with human resources and trying to get drivers and even office staff to help meet our needs. That comes at an expense. So we really need to gear up our recruitment process. A lot of that comes from having to hiring part-time employees hasn't been successful for us. So we're looking to move to hiring more full-time people. That comes with added benefits and added expense. So that's why you see the increases in the personnel that you see on the budgets. Yeah, I mean, I'll answer any questions you have. I think I give you all the documents.
Go ahead.
Are there any, what's the situation with state
Is there any on the horizon or?
Well, last year, and this is the challenging thing to talk about too. So last year, there was a lot of revenue added to transportation across the state. But in spite of that, our funding percentage reimbursement is actually decreasing. So we're adding money to the state, but the expenses for transit and transportation as a whole continue to increase. Our fuel bill, for example, in the first 2-week period of this fiscal year was approximately $19,000. Last 2-week period was about $27,000. So our fuel bills nearly doubled. And you know, and it's not just transit that shares this fund, it's shared with roads, it's shared with ferry boats, all of those things. So our expenses have gone up so much that the added investment from the state level isn't matching the increase in the expenses. So in 2016, the state appropriated approximately $168 million to local bus operating. That's what funds transit. That was in 2016. In 2026, it was about 100 million more than that. But despite of that, our funding reimbursement has actually decreased by about 2%. And we're expecting another funding decrease from the state level next year. This budget was made at a funding reimbursement at 33.1%, which I think is included in your documents. This year we're at 34.85. So we're expecting another small decrease from the states at the time of this budget. And that requires something. We either have to lower our expenses or increase our local revenues in order to make budget.
Thank you.
I was just gonna ask on the ineligible expenses, are those related to ineligible to get grant funding or?
Yeah, we're reimbursed based on eligible expenses. So MDOT puts a revenue and expense manual out every year. So essentially we can't get reimbursement for like food at our meetings or certain different things. The budget we get reimbursed for is to provide transportation specifically. So anything that we may do outside of providing transportation, that would include even advertising and those kind of dollars, those aren't reimbursable.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just want to say, I know a lot of Isabella County residents depend on iRide a lot for getting to and from their employment.
Yes.
And these, you know, the services that we provide extremely important for their livelihood and we really do need to work hard at getting more employees, drivers and things to keep our schedules going, to keep our residents able to survive and work here. You know, cutting back on weekends because we don't have drivers impacts them greatly. I know for a fact, like, I think there's 6 people in adult education who work at Myers and utilize the iRide to get to and from work, and they have to either walk home 4 miles now on Saturday night, or you know, hitch a ride. So this impacts people's lives greatly. So thank you for your work, and I really support getting more drivers and employees and doing what we need to do to serve our residents.
I appreciate that. If there's any residents watching, we're always hiring. So please
Yeah,
apply.
yeah.
How many drivers do you have?
Right now, we're around 60. Again, 15 years ago, we were approaching 100 employees and now we're under 70. So our number of employee levels are way down and it's starting to affect services.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what's your turnaround rate on your buses? Is that by so many miles or what's your schedule on that?
All of that. Usually our buses get replaced with federal capital dollars, capital grants. And they have a useful life based on the duty cycle of the bus. So it varies from 7 to 10 years based on whether it's a light duty, medium duty, or heavy duty bus. Honestly, though, even when they get replaced, we usually don't get rid of them. We keep them and expand the fleet in that way until the buses are no longer viable for the road. So we do the best we can with the resources we have.
Just a comment, Mr. Collins, I always appreciate the level of detail that you give us, that you put into this budget presentation for us. And all the work that you do. I'm certainly in favor of approving the 0.862 mils at next week's meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move that to next Tuesday's meeting, and that will bring us to item 3. Chairman, you want to take that one?
Sure, consider approving the fiscal year 2027 budget millage for the Isabella County Medical Care Facility at 1.0 mils.
Hi, I'm Melissa Hanek, the administrator at the medical care facility. And this is our facility accountant, Philip Alt.
Hi.
So we are here today asking budget to have the full 1 mil for the facility. I provided quite a bit of information for you. Hopefully that was helpful. A lot of what I would say would be repeated in what I provided. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look that over. Do you have any specific questions related to the budget or our information or the project?
Questions?
Yes. Just how you were, I think last time you were here, you were going through the remodeling phase is
Well, this is, where we,
talking about expanding that. Where's that at?
right now, if we do the 1 mil, we'll be, putting construction documents out for bid in the next, I would say, month to 2 months.
Okay.
So they've almost got them completed.
Okay.
And, you know, I tried to show you in here the areas of the building that would be renovated. It's all on the first floor. So that would bring the in-house laundry in. I think I mentioned, currently we're spending about $450,000 on laundry service because we rent the linens, and this would bring that in-house, and even except for the initial investment of linen purchasing, you know, it would result in about a $300,000 savings annually, even by adding 2 full-time employees and maintenance for equipment. We do some laundry in-house currently. We just don't do all the bed linens and the towels and stuff. We do all personals in-house, but unfortunately, some of our personal laundry gets put in the wrong chute and goes out and then gets lost. And that also is true with some of our washable equipment like slings and gate belts and things like that. And we have a really hard time getting them back from the company that services us. You know, they put all that stuff in bins and they just get rid of it. Sometimes we've had some really good drivers that'll bring us back 10 slings and say, hey, we secured these for you, but that doesn't happen all the time. So that's what that project would do, is bring that laundry in-house. And also the unused childcare space that we used to rent would be renovated for the activity department and larger space for the residents to congregate and gather.
How many residents currently?
Today I think I have 85 residents, but you know, it fluctuates. A couple days ago I had 93. We're averaging 87 for this year, which is up, I think, 5 or 6 per day from our previous year. During COVID, we were down to about 73. So, and building up a census with, you know, our Medicare percentage of people coming and going is quite a bit. You can see we did 350 some admissions and discharges, I think I said. Got the number right off the top of my head.
In the projected financial activity, we do kind of give that historical, the average residents per day. Back in fiscal 24, it was 72. And we've continually increased that over the last couple of years, building up staffing and opening up rooms. But, and I think in the past, we've come in and identified that we have a non-available bed plan in place. For all of fiscal 26, we've not had to put any beds on hold to manage that occupancy. So we've kept all rooms available, which helps us get up to that 93 or into the low to mid 90s, which is historically where the facility's been.
Do you have a waiting list at this time?
No, we haven't really needed to keep a waiting list. The only area that, is our secure dementia unit, but sometimes beds take so long to open up, we don't really keep a waiting list for it.
Okay, thanks.
Be pretty hard to give anyone a solid estimate. They're on a waiting list.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people, we just say, don't wait and, reach back out to us, because if you get placed somewhere else and then you call us and you're not happy with that, or you still want to get into us, then we can look at it at that time. Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, we do hold, like, once we've said, like, someone's in the hospital, like, we can take you, we might wait a couple days until you're ready, or something might happen, we do keep people like that, but not a long-term resident for an extended period of time. We just tell them to reach back out. And most of the time people can't wait, if you have somebody who has dementia and they're getting out every night out of your house, you can't wait until I have a bed.
Right.
You need to find placement and then work on changing that if you can in the future.
How many beds are in that unit?
There's 20. Yeah, that was the big project facility did when they bonded out back in 2002 to 2005. The building was 80 beds and they added the 20 beds at that time.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I appreciate all the information you've given us and all the detail.
I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Philip, I did write it. Sheet here as well.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
And item 4 is consider approving the fiscal year 2027 budget millage for Isabella County Parks and Recreation at 0.35 of 1 mil. And Director Henson, you are here. I didn't see you back there.
I snuck in a few minutes late.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so we have a 6-year millage that is approved by the voters for up to 0.35 mils. And we are requesting the full 0.35 mils. One of the things I want to just touch on before I talk about numbers for our department is just the reminder that the Parks Department entire budget down to the line item falls under the control of this board. So we come forward at this time in the year and we request the millage funding. And then this board also has oversight of our budget and our operation throughout the year. So if we make purchases throughout the year, our budget approval cycle. So I know some of the other funds, once the millage is approved, they kind of have direct oversight of their budget. So I just wanted to give that preface that this board does, it's not in my staff report, but this board does formally approve our entire budget by the line item. So just keep that in mind in terms of how we operate. Okay, so a couple things I want to just touch on as far as our use and how we're serving our community. So it's hard to look at 26 numbers because we're still right in the middle of our season. But if I go back and look at 25 season numbers, we served a minimum of 125,859 visitors for the 25 season. Our campgrounds were at, for Coldwater, we had a 72% occupancy rate. Herrick had just under 50% occupancy rate, and then the campsites at Deerfield had 20% occupancy rate. So we are seeing a lot of use in our campgrounds. I believe when we get final numbers for this year, we're going to see actually an increase in that. So over 125,000 visitors and tens of thousands of visitors coming in and using our campgrounds every year. And then we also have resources that aren't staffed, such as Majeski Landing, the rail trail, where we don't always capture visitor use on those, but we do know that those facilities are being utilized. When we talk about the numbers for our actual operation, it's pretty standard for our millage funding to cover between 50 and 60% of our total operating revenues. So we're gonna, this 0.35 is necessary for us, and then we're also having to work hard to make sure that we're hitting revenue projections through the parks, vehicle permits, camping, those things on top of that to round out our full operating budget. So again, I want to point out that we're not relying solely on taxpayer dollars. We're working really hard to bring in revenue through the campgrounds and through the parks in ways that we can. Again, we've had this 0.35 mils, up to 0.35 mils since 2012. And we have not asked for an increase. We just work always to make our expenses stay within budget. And then we're doing things on our end. And in fact, we have some things that'll be coming forward soon in terms of adjustments to user fees and things like that to kind of balance things. But I wanted to point out a couple categories with our budget as it sits with our request for projections for fiscal year 27. So some of the increases that we're looking at for our full-time salaries, we're looking at an 11% increase from this year to next year. For our part-time salaries, we're looking at a 10% increase. Some of you are probably already aware that the state of Michigan minimum wage is going up. So as of January 1st, it'll be jumping from $12.73 an hour to $15 an hour. So based on what we're already paying our seasonal staff, getting everyone up to that minimum wage is a 15% increase for our operation. Just for our seasonal wages, we typically have anywhere from 38 to 45 seasonal staff. Looking at some of our costs that we're trying to control through our amount of use and the way that we do things, but we have no control over that market. For example, oil and gas for our fleet of vehicles and equipment. Looking at our 24 to 25 activity compared to what we're projecting for the 27 fiscal year, that's a 29% increase in costs. Let's see. So for something as simple as our janitorial supplies, we've seen a 12% increase over the last 3 operating years. Utilities, so just for our Coldwater Lake facility alone, we've seen a 17% increase in our utility costs. So, and that we're looking at next year spending $40,000 just to keep the electricity bill paid at Coldwater alone. So those costs are significantly affecting our operation. Again, we're doing things on our end. We have some rate adjustments coming forward in some of the upcoming meeting cycles. But I just wanted to point those things out. Same utilities at Herrick, a 19% increase over 3 years. So while we are doing things on our end to make the revenue make sense and to keep contributing to our budget on that end, we also do rely heavily on these millage dollars. If you look at, and I know you don't have it right in front of you, so I'll just go over the numbers briefly, but our requested budget for fiscal year 27 would be utilizing $633,327 out of our fund balance. So if all goes as projected, we would end next fiscal year with just under 1.4 million in fund balance, which is right around where we currently sit. I think we've had discussions in the past, if certain properties came up for sale, if certain projects were needed immediate attention, 1.4 million is not a huge cushion for a parks operation, but we have been able to be sustainable with that level. So I would hate to see it go below that. So really there's immediate operating impacts and then long-term planning impacts if we were to not be able to collect the full 0.35 mils for our organization. So those are just some of the numbers I wanted to go over, some of the things I wanted to touch on. I have a bunch of information with me if you want me to answer any other questions. I'm happy to the extent that I can.
You know, I gotta ask a question. How's the staffing issue been this year as far as, I know we talked earlier, we're fully, but that kind of changes.
Well, we were fully staffed at one point in the season. We were not able to retain all of our staff. So like currently we don't have a night ranger at Herrick. And honestly, that in conjunction with not having the, local sheriff's deputies helping us out in the way that we did, that's had a huge impact on our operation at Herrick. We had a couple more positions for rangers at like Deerfield and Coldwater that we could have filled. So I would say staffing wise, we are kind of at the bare minimum of what we would like to be, and we hired a lot of people who had no previous work experience this year, and they're doing a great job and they're learning a lot, but there's certain management concerns that come into play when you're hiring a lot of folks who have no previous job experience. So that has been an ongoing struggle for us. And I anticipate that, one silver lining of next year, the state minimum wage going up, is that maybe we'll be able to attract, it kind of forces our hand and we'll be attractive, maybe some more qualified candidates just because that minimum wage is going to come up. But then again, it has impacts on our budget. So that's an ongoing struggle.
I know, that's why I always ask. The other question is, I know what it's been discussed before, some of the entrance booths at some of the smaller parks. You can't ever have staffing in there. Has there been any change looking into having an electronic entry system, or is that gonna be too cost prohibitive?
So I've had a lot of discussions with like our MacPro, so colleagues of mine who work in other municipalities. And that's the biggest holdup of people moving in that direction, is they're quite expensive. And then the other thing is, for certain locations, if you don't already have the electrical infrastructure in place to place an electronic gate there, then you're looking at significant upfront costs just to get the connections needed to even manage the gate. And then the other thing that comes into play is then training our maintenance staff to be able to work on and do the upkeep on them. So it's something that stays on the radar. We just haven't found a really good economical solution to the cost direction yet.
Yeah, effective at this time.
Any other questions? Great, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move that item to next week's meeting. And item 5, Commissioner Campbell, would you take that for us?
Yes. Consider approving the fiscal year 2027 budget millage for the Isabella County Commission on Aging at 1.0 mil.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, we had a millage that passed. I don't know if everyone heard.
Yeah.
So several years ago, I came to you. Prior to that, the previous director, we were able, and for my first few years, we were able to take a lower amount of our mills. But with indirect costs, and we were at a deficit budget for several years once we were able to take those on. And so after that, then I did come and ask for the full mill. And so I'm asking again for the same 1 mill this year. At this point, where we're sitting as with our fiscal year 27 budget, we're at a surplus of about 83,000. So we're very excited and happy about that. But I know we're not finalized yet, so I don't know if it's going to stay there or where we're going to be. We were at a deficit at first, but then we went up a little bit. So I am requesting the full 1 mill again for this year. With our budget, it's just a little over $4 million. And that is we have 14 different revenue streams. So we have a lot of different either grant fundings and different revenues that we have coming in that we do monitor and utilize here at COA. And with that, we'll be employing 40 staff. So 20 full-time, 20 part-time here. And of course, like the others that have talked, that is certainly probably the bulk of our budget would be our wages and benefits, which we couldn't do what we do without those. So that's very important for us. So yeah, so for us right now, I know I just have been before you with our millage, so I hit you with a lot of statistics about fiscal year 25. I'd be happy to go over some of them again if you would like it, or if you had just heard that from me. I can answer questions if you'd rather have that.
Wherever you prefer.
Well, last year I'll hit you with some. So last year,
fiscal year 25, so as far as our in-home services, that's where we have the folks that are going out in the homes. We provide about 8,000 hours of care to folks within their home. We had about 4,000 hours of just case management or social work, like the folks that work with them and help connect them to resources and get them signed up for our services. With our Food with Friends program, we served just under 64,000 meals that were made from scratch here. So that's a combination of our home delivered meals. With those, we started doing frozens to help supplement on the off days that we weren't able to provide, and all still made from scratch. And then also our congregate sites. The congregate sites, the ladies at those sites, so we have 4 other sites other than here throughout the county, and they have done just a wonderful job of recruiting and getting more people to come in. Across the nation, I mean, congregate sites it's been just a dying program, and we certainly are going the other direction now. And so we're really excited about that. They've done an awesome job of getting live music and just figuring out the groups that they have in their areas of what they like, and they're catering to them and really trying to entice them to come in. And that's awesome because, I mean, of course, you know, we want to serve someone at home in their meal if we can, but if they're able to get out, we want them to get out because we want them to socialize and, you know, make those friendships, which is so important. With our volunteer program, we could not do what we do without them. We have almost 300 dedicated volunteers who work with us regularly. So they are regularly scheduled with us. And then we work with a lot of different service organizations and groups that come and do a lot of stuff for us as well. And it's just incredible. Through our activities program, we offer about 25 free fitness classes a week. We have about 150 people that come and take part in those. Once COVID hit, we always had a charge for them. And when COVID hit, we moved everything to an online platform. We stopped charging because we didn't know how that would have been hard to be able to do. So we just wanted to put it out, get more people involved as much as they could. And since we were able to afford it, we wanted to keep that. So that's something we've continued to do, is just provide those classes free of charge for older adult residents. And as long as we can, we will. We have incredible instructors that work with us. So we're very fortunate to have that. And then our foster grandparent senior companion programs, we have about 50 volunteers who work in those programs. And they've provided about 40,000 hours of volunteer service, whether it's in our schools or they go into nursing homes or into individual homes, and provide that companionship or friendship to them. So that's in a nutshell. I know right now I can tell you in this fiscal year, our meals are up. Our calls for service have been up. Those baby boomers, like I mentioned before, just started turning 80 in January. And so we're definitely seeing that and feeling it. But we're here for it. So
Nice. Nice to hear that those congregate meals are up.
yeah,
It's so important to get people out and engaged in the community.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will move that to next Tuesday's meeting. And item 6, Commissioner Marino, take that for us?
Sure. Consider approving the contract modification between Isabella County as a fiscal agent for Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works and Gratiot Isabella Regional Education Service District for case management services for the contract term of October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
So
Speak to
this is another one of those contracts for Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works. There's quite a few contracts between the Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works and the Gratiot Isabella RESD. So this is just another extension and or modification to the original contract of $92,740. And this is for programs to provide direct job seeker case management, one-stop operator and employment services in Gratiot and Isabella counties, and use services to Gratiot, Isabella, Saginaw, and Midland counties.
Excellent. Any questions? Okay, we'll move that to next week's meeting, and that brings us to item 7. Commissioner Johnsinski.
Consider approving resolution number 2026-5 for the Stevenson Lake level improvement assessments, and authorize the board chairperson and Isabella County clerk to sign the same. I think it was about a couple years ago, our drain commissioner, Robert, came before us and identified some issues at, I believe at that time, it was 3 dams in the county. Some of them that needed work, but there was a question about the legality behind it. So I'm thinking this is the first project to
And one thing I've
went through the process.
learned in my years being here is before you do much work on something, you need to make sure your assessment role is. That this one was. I believe my attorney's on
Yes. Amanda is on.
and she knows more as far as the rest. This is a little different. I have to have the county approve my assessment role for a lake level. She can explain that.
So Amanda, can you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
And we also have Luke O'Brien from Spicer Group on the call. Just I'll give you all a quick background, but Luke's available for questions as well. He's the engineer for the project. So just some quick background on how we got here, and we've kind of already gone through some of it. Stevenson Lake has a legal lake level established by the Isabella County Circuit Court under a statute that's called Part 307 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. And that lake level was established originally in the 1970s, so a long time ago. And so what happens under this statute is once we have a legal lake level established by the court, the county becomes responsible for operating and maintaining that lake level and any related infrastructure. So in this case, the lake level control structure on Stevenson Lake. Obviously, that's a lot of work for a county board of commissioners. And so the statute also allows a county board to appoint what we call a delegated authority to handle the day-to-day responsibilities. And then the county board still has responsibility for major decisions. So something like approving the assessment role, which is why we're here today. So your delegated authority is your county drain commissioner. As was mentioned, the drain commissioner, in coordination with our office and Spicer Group, reviewed the historical files related to Stevenson Lake, and we also did Wademan Mill Pond at that same time, and found that there were some updates that were needed to make sure that basically what's on paper in the court order is up to date based on current state law and also what actually happens on the lake. And so in order to do that, we do have to go back to the circuit court. There was a hearing back in February, and at that time, the court entered an updated lake level order for Stevenson Lake that basically made some updates to make sure that what's on paper in the court order matches what's actually happening on Stevenson Lake. So what we don't want to see and what was going on is there were some differences between the physical lake level that all of your property owners are used to seeing and what's on paper in the court order. And so we wanted to make sure, rather than changing that physical lake level and upsetting property owners, we wanted to make sure that that court order got updated to reflect what actually happens on the lake. The other big update to the court order was confirming the boundaries of a special assessment district. And so that's really important under the statute. Special assessments of the properties around the lake is the only funding mechanism we really have to fund operation and maintenance of the lake level, things like repairs to the lake level control structure, inspections that are required by the state every 3 years, etc. And so the court entered that updated order in March. And so that was kind of step one in this process. Step two is holding a separate public hearing outside of court to present a computation of costs and assessment role to the public. And so that hearing took place on July 30th. All of the property owners that are in the special assessment district got notice of that hearing. By statute, we have to send a mailing notice. It was published in the newspaper a couple of times, and it was also posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. So that hearing took place on July 30th. At the hearing and within a few days following the hearing, we did have some property owners reach out and say, I think my assessment should be adjusted for this reason. So we researched each piece of information that was submitted following that hearing. I know your drain commissioner went out and actually did a site visit to the lake, made some adjustments to his recommended assessment role based on that information that was received. And those are reflected in the resolution and the attached assessment role that are in front of you today. Ultimately, the drain commissioner recommended approval of that revised assessment role and the computation of project costs. Kind of the next step in this process is that we have to have, as Bob mentioned, we have to have county board approval of the assessment role and computation of costs. So that's kind of the background. I'll be really quick, but I'd also just like to walk through what you're looking at when you're looking at this computation of cost and assessment role. So the total assessment amount is $95,000. That's going to be spread over 5 years. And so when we get that, how many years are we spreading this over number? The drain commissioner is looking at things like, what does that break down each year for your typical property owner? What's affordable? Part 307 actually allows us to assess over up to 40 years. Obviously, we don't want to go that far out, but we kind of have some wiggle room there to decide what's affordable to property owners. There is going to be 5% interest on those assessments, so property owners will have an opportunity to either pay their full assessment up front and avoid interest, or make the annual payments with interest every year for 5 years. The assessment methodology looks at a whole bunch of different factors or considerations related to the unique characteristics of each parcel in the special assessment district. So we're looking at things like the property's access to the lake. So is it direct access right on the lake? Is it on a canal? Does it have indirect access through a plat or something like that? And recognizing that each one of those categories has a different level of benefit from the lake. We also look at the property type. So most parcels on Stevenson Lake are residential, but we do have higher factors for public boat launches, which for Stevenson Lake, there's only one, and it's owned by the state of Michigan. So this is really unique. We actually can assess the state of Michigan under this statute, which I'm not aware of any other special assessment statutes that you can do that. And then there's a factor for hotel and resort parcels. We also looked at, for those parcels that are on the lakefront, the amount of lake frontage that they have. And so there's some different ranges, like 0 to 200 feet, etc. So you have a little bit higher assessment if you have, a significant amount of frontage. There are also what we call at-large assessments. So those are assessments to the county and Vernon Township that relate to public benefits and public use of the lake. So property owners always say, well, we have people from all over the township or all over the county coming to launch their boats on Stevenson Lake. What about them? My answer is usually, well, in this case, the county has a 5% at-large assessment and Vernon Township has a 5% at-large assessment. So we can't assess every person that puts their boat in the lake, but we do have those at-larges. And so just to kind of summarize the role that's in front of you, what you're looking at, your typical direct access lakefront property would be assessed at about $140 per year. Your typical canal access property would be right around $81 per year. We also have a special factor for some of the canals that have more limited access. That's right around $70 per year. And then your indirect or your backlots are right around $54 per year. I know that was a lot, so again, we're happy to answer any questions.
So just looking at some of the assessments on there, and I was kind of curious, is that the Department of Natural Resources had 17% of that. Do they pay that, or is that something they normally pay? I just seen that's.
I don't think they can dispute it. Can they, Amanda?
So that's a great question, and that's actually been a whole nother can of worms the last couple of years. So how it's happened in the past is there's not an allocation in the state budget for these assessments. And so what we've done in the past is we've actually had to sue the state. And usually what happens is we'll sue the state on behalf of a whole bunch of counties to pay these assessments. And then they do have money in the budget for litigation funds. So what would happen in the past is we'd file a lawsuit, then they'd pay us from that fund. There's some really confusing stuff going on with the laws and some changes in the laws related to these assessments that my office is involved in on behalf of the Michigan Association of County Drain Commissioners. I won't go into all those details, but the statute is very clear that the state is liable for these assessments.
Okay, I'm just curious because that was 17% of the total assessment. It's a large.
Yeah.
So I'm talking, the other question is probably to the drain commissioner. What is actually the difference between the lake levels, between the actual and what was on paper? Which one was
I
higher?
don't know the exact numbers, but it has crowded up over the years because the channels.
So the actual is
When
higher?
that structure was originally built, they used boards.
Yeah.
And at one time, probably when I was a youngster. And now it has metal gates with chains. You turn and it pulls them up or down. And we typically move it 3 inches. We would lower it 3 inches during the winter. Actually, before I raise it up before Memorial Day and lower it back down after Labor Day. I move it 3 inches, but over the years, it's crowded itself. It's probably 8 inches to a foot higher than the original corridor.
Just an observation, it isn't meant to be critical to the drain commissioner or anybody, but I was looking at the actual, the cost here, and the inspections 5,000, maintenance and repairs is 18,000, that's about 23,500. But the project amount is 95,000, so it's about a quarter. If there had been a way to get a grant behind the scenes to be able to do this work, and not have to go through the assessment, but I know it's difficult.
And I can speak to that. So first, unfortunately, I get this question a lot, and my answer has to be grant funding for these in the state of Michigan is extremely limited, if not non-existent right now. Eagle did have, or the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, formerly the DEQ, had a dam risk reduction grant fund for a few years that was not funded in the current year's budget. Unfortunately, even if we had that, Stevenson Lake would be very unlikely to qualify. A lot of it was related to dam removals, and for high hazard dams that were in poor condition. I will note that some of these numbers in the computation of costs, I would like, especially development of district boundaries and lake level order updates. I do not anticipate that Stevenson Lake would need to go back through this process, go back to the circuit court for a very long time, absent some unforeseen change in the law. So many of those, I hope, are kind of, one-time costs that get us through the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Thank you for explaining.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Willoughby, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move that to next week's meeting, item number 8, and I think we're over here to Commissioner Jelezinski.
Did you just do the resolution?
I can do another one if you
Like,
want.
it's fine.
Oh, we'll keep moving.
Consider approving the grant application between the Michigan Department of Military and Veterans Affairs and Isabella County in the amount of $53,460.35 for the enhanced veteran services operations.
Morning.
Morning.
So we've done the grant in the past. Last year, just to refresh your memory, there was a hiatus. The state of Michigan had some problems, 2 issues. One, they lost several $1 million. There was an accounting snafu, which led to the next problem. They had put some unrealistic expectations on the grant for 26, and we actually couldn't qualify. Only 13 counties. They went from 75 to 13 counties could even qualify for it. And at that point, it was by November, we had written the whole thing off, and then suddenly they turned around and got their hands smacked by, I don't know, something to do with Congress. I lost track of it, and we had already been done at that point. Mr. Engler had to step in and say we were done, we were moved on. So it became, they had some problems internally. Those problems are now gone. So as you can see, the MBA was formerly the proprietor of the grant. Now the DMBA has taken over. I actually don't know where they are in the hierarchy, but they seem to be in charge now, and they've made things a whole lot easier. It's a lot more seamless, less problems, a lot easier to qualify. Everything's very straightforward. So we're not going to have any problems. That was the reason I wanted to step back, because I wanted them to fix their issues. So we were along for the ride with their issues. So grant this year, we'll be using what we used in the past for outreach, for advertising, to go to events and venues. I have pulled back the bus ads. I don't necessarily know that I was getting an ROI out of those. So not really earmarked, but I left some money, some space, because actually we have a Veterans Affairs Committee meeting this Thursday. And we're looking to come up with some other ideas, add some additional, because we can always amend the budget up until, I think it's July. We can always add additional funding for requests. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Sure.
On that, connected television, is that the one at the gas station?
I think, no, that's actual, I think they say gas stations. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I see right
Yeah,
over there.
I actually don't know what the connected is. I believe that's streaming. I think it's like Roku and other streaming networks, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So,
I ought to reach one. Cool.
yeah, exactly. That's the idea. So,
Any other questions? Thank you.
thanks for your time.
Thanks.
And we will move that to next week's meeting, brings us to item 9, and Chairman, take item 9.
Sure. Consider approving the updated software maintenance agreement for the Commission on Aging building and authorize Commission on Aging Director to sign for the upgrade. Oh, we have Commissioner Directors, Shoemaker with us today.
Morning. I have spoken with Director Crawford. She is totally on board with all of this. I told her I'd take it up front for it.
Yep.
So months ago, we approved the replacement of the rooftop units that are almost 20 years old. Technology has changed quite a bit. The operating software in our building management system has changed quite a bit over the last 18 years. As you can see, the last update was done in 2017 to our software. In 19, our agreement had expired, so there hasn't been nothing done to upgrade the software of this building management in that long. Now you have brand new units who are much more capable technically of doing other things. We need to upgrade the building management software so we can utilize the equipment more efficiently. It also, they threw in the fact that we have one freezer and 2 coolers. They're not monitored. So if equipment dies on a weekend, we don't find out till Monday when it's too late. This will be incorporated into the agreement where they will put glycol sealed vials in there to have more accurate temperatures. And if a piece of equipment goes down, the temperature drops or goes up by too much, we will get a warning through text message alerting me and my staff and the Commission on Aging staff that there's something wrong going on. For the price of $16,700 some, I think it is money well spent.
I love technology, but it will be.
You don't have any choice.
I know, everything goes in there, but yeah. It'll stay in the long run, so.
I mean, the noise we're hearing from this should quiet down a little bit with new equipment, but keep in mind that those rooftop units sit 3 feet on the other side of the ceiling above you. So when they take off, you're still gonna hear the air coming in. We're still gonna have a little noise. Hopefully, it's not as dramatic, but I won't make any promises on that. By the way, it's designed. Any questions? Nope.
I guess not. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 10 is consider approving the proposed health insurance cost share structure.
Okay, so I got Leah from Human Resources and Chris Whitmer here to answer more specific questions related to this. A couple months ago, when we first got the initial increase, it was over 21%. That was going to be increased to the county for the upcoming insurance health plan. So going back and forth and looking at many different options, self-funding, in which we could only got one quote for, and that was Blue Cross, and that was because they had to. No one else was willing to even quote us for self-insurance because of the amount of claims in our history on that there was not anything that they were going to waste their time on doing. So we went back and forth looking at different options with employee cost share increases and stuff. So what is being proposed is that the current A plan will increase from 15 to 20%. Current B plan employee cost share will increase from 7.5 to 12%. We added a new plan C with a cost share of 10.5%. The former plan C, which used to be free and now is renamed Plan D, going from 0 to 5.5%. And then there's a new Plan E with an employee cost share of 3%. Those new plans gives the option of, none of these are great options. Right? So it's a horrible situation to be in. But by offering two additional plans that offer higher deductibles and higher co-insurance maximums, it just gives the employee at least some flexibility if they want to pay more upfront costs for the better insurance or pay less upfront costs with higher deductibles and copays. That way, it was just a way to try to ease the pain as much as we can, but we know there's still a significant amount of pain for the employees. I get that, but it's looking into the future and stuff. You got to start being able to cap these costs. Last year, I think it was a little over 13%. This year, 21%. Talking to different ones. With what's going on with Medicaid funding cuts, I think next year we probably can see another large increase. I don't know, but so this is what's being proposed. So it's those cost share increases which is being presented to the board today.
I just wanted to add to this, this keeps our same insurance that we have, coverages, all those things. It's the deductibles and the co-insurance that are where it's changing, but no change in coverages. Same insurance.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you so much for the insurance committee. You've certainly been a very, very good feature of our county, and I appreciate all the people that have gone through it and try to understand those crazy rules. But thank you very much.
Kind of contractor we can be locked into on this?
For the insurance or the, I believe this is a 1 year. What we're gonna do is with the insurance agent, going to start having some earlier discussions in January and February of next year to kind of see if going self-insurance makes any sense at that point. Because what they do is there's constant reevaluation of how many claims, future claims and everything else like this, it all goes into their actuarial. So we're going to reconvene in late winter, early spring to go over the different options at that point already.
Yeah, looking through these, and I know it's a cost increase in there, but what's the breakdown of what the county is actually putting for each plan?
So the percentages were derived in order to keep the county's portion relatively the same amongst all 5 plans. So if you look at just, if we wanted to look at family coverage for Plan A, county's paying $31,388.91. For Plan B, the county would be paying 31,641.35. For the Plan C, the county would be paying the 31,798.13. Plan D, 31,951.58, and for Plan E, the county would be paying 32,031.88. So those percentages were derived to kind of keep the county's portion of its cost the same amongst all 5 plans.
So why did we make a decision to, I understand we have, it's 20% more and it's something that not just us, but every business that provides healthcare sees at university sees 15 to 20% increase every year. It's something we have to plan on. But this year we have dramatically increased the amount of money we're pulling out of our employees to pay for the healthcare, and it's proportionally much more. So if we kept our percents, I mean, say we could add some percents for the smaller plans. But if we kept our percents at 15% as last year, they're still paying 21.67% more because it's 15%. But we're adding another 5% onto that. So we're adding a 20% onto a 20% onto our employees here. And I'd like to see the numbers of, so what we're paying now, what the employees are paying now total for the healthcare, and then what you estimate next year's plan that the employees are going to pay, because it's got to be a huge amount of money that we're increasing, that we're pulling out of our employees.
So just to make sure we're clear on this, the amount we were quoted on our first, that came back, that was like 21.10%, I think. 21.1% was the total increase in coverages, or I'm sorry, coverages is the wrong word, premiums, excuse me. So when we looked at that's not an increase just to the employees, that's we have a share of this too, right?
Yeah, it's the total increase.
Okay, I
right?
just didn't want anyone attending this meeting to think that's only that huge increase is only going to employees. That goes to both county and.
It's 21.67 to the total premium.
Yes,
I understand
total.
that. But we got a cost sharing.
Yes.
We're currently at 15% for the one plant. We're increasing that to 20%. So we're increasing upon an increase. That a percent on a percent.
To help spread that, yeah.
What we're doing is spreading more of it on employees and less of it on us.
Absolutely. That's what happened last year that we thought we had.
I understand, but we're increasing a lot of money from, and I would like to see those numbers. I want to know how much we're going to be pulling out of employees, because that's how much money they're not going to have for other things. Like, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're pulling out of our employees.
Right here for you.
Yeah.
So, last year, the percentage, if you look at the total amount of the premiums, the county paid 90% of that amount and the employee paid 10%. If you take the total amount for the entire active employees that were on there. Which if you take the original renewal and we didn't change anything with any cost shares, it would have stayed that same percentage, 90% county costs, 10% to the employees. With this change, the county is paying still 86% of that total cost on average. Obviously, it depends on which plan the employees elect to go into.
Right.
But the county is still paying 86% of that total premium, and the employees are only paying 14% of that total.
Okay, so
You want the dollar amounts?
So the total dollar amount that the employees would cost based on current enrollment is $731,289.
And ours county.
And our county cost is $4.465,000.
And you just said
$731,000.
And what was this year's employee cost? It would have been.
Yeah.
$416,000.
Right, so that's almost doubling our employees' healthcare costs. I mean, it's not exactly the 300 and some thousand
Right, on
dollars more.
average.
Right,
Countywide.
yeah, I think this is, the board's really gotta question this, I mean, we're not at a loss in our fund balance to cover this. And if we force our employees to basically on average double their healthcare costs, we're gonna have, you know, especially our median to lower salaried people choosing what healthcare they can afford. Because I tell you, if they take E, you know, they gotta pay $5,000 or whatever it is right up front before they get any healthcare benefits. And when you're making $42,000 or whatever it is, and you've got children, you're gonna start making some poor choices in what you can provide in healthcare. But I think this is irresponsible for us to be balancing a budget on healthcare for our employees. We have to be responsible employees. You know, we're responsible to our constituents, but they are also working for us here as well. We have to be aware that we can't be putting, you know, this, I don't know, I just call it incredible weight upon them. I think that we should maintain our percents. If we need to, you know, keep these plans, I will not vote for anything that increases the percent. We can discuss having, you know, your small percent increase paying for healthcare, where you've got, you know, a big deductible. But I'm not in favor of a $350,000 increase in charges to our employees. We're fighting to keep our total benefit package up year to year to keep employees, and this is a lot of damage if it goes through.
I was just gonna comment, we did look at leaving the percentages, the cost share percentages where they were at and going to all higher deductible plans. It saved overall, the premiums were significantly lower and the cost to the county was lower. However, if you look at the amount of the cost share plus the out-of-pocket cost that it was to the employee, it was unbelievable. It was.
With the out of cost pocket to our employees is $300 and some thousand more already on this package. So when we talk about out of cost pocket costs, it's there whether you do that or this.
So it was over 800,000.
I understand.
to do the cost share.
You're just shoving the money onto a deductible. I understand that. But the cost is still burdened on our employees, and that's not what I'm saying we should do. I'm saying that we should take as employers our percent, like our employees are doing, that we've done in the past. We shouldn't put more of the burden on our employees. We take the percent that we've always done. And they'll they're gonna already have a burden of 21%, and we're gonna have a burden of 21%. It is what it is.
Question. The 783,388 that you mentioned in the staff report, that represents what the increase would have been without
The
changes,
original.
correct?
That's the original renewal that came back, yes.
Okay. And so with the changes that are being proposed, what is the difference between that number and the increase what's the increase cost to the county
With the proposed
with the
one,
proposed changes?
it is, so with the proposed 5 plans, the total increase to the county is 532,000. Just over 532,000.
And one thing I'd like to point out, if I may, yes, we look at what it does for the employees. But if we look at the county, if we just look at the general fund, right now, the general fund is gonna be paying $3,066,425, just the general fund. So if you take it at just a 10% increase each year, and then you compare that to what is our biggest revenue source for the general fund is property tax, and you look at that as a 3% increase. Within 9 years, we're gonna be outstripping that insurance increase. We're gonna be in the negative on that. And then if you throw salaries in there, take our current salaries and add just 2% increase each year, within 5 years, salaries and insurance benefits will outpace the increase in property taxes. So where are we gonna come up with additional revenue sources at that point? Are we gonna get down to the road and just say, we're gonna do health insurance, we're gonna do salaries? Because it's gonna be almost impossible to do both without making changes now.
It's a tough-
I don't
tough thing
think,
To try to balance.
yeah,
Obviously, there's no easy answer. We would have brought an easier answer to you.
right. And next year is not gonna be pretty with Medicaid changes that are coming.
It's a big scare. And that's something that every one of our insurance advisory meetings we had, that was something that was discussed each and every time. Acrisure brought that up to us too, that, these are things on the horizon that are pretty scary for us. So I assure you, there was no one sitting on that insurance committee that thought this was just easy peasy, here you go. I mean, there was all of us. There was not one person that sat there, regardless of the employment group that they may have represented, that thought, it sucks. That's all there is to it. It didn't matter what choices we looked at, they were all yuck.
But this was a recommendation.
This is
from
the recommendation of the entire.
Employee healthcare committee. Yes, sir.
The insurance package is still wonderful compared to a lot of the others you could get in other employment settings. And I'm not opposed to making adjustments, but I don't want to see the adjustments coming out of fund balance. This is a legacy cost that we're going to continue to look at. And if we do make an adjustment, I'd like to see still a balanced budget, and I'd like to see where we're going to reduce the budget elsewhere to pay for it.
I'm all in favor of reducing the budget elsewhere to pay for this, so that our employees don't take the burden, because what we're doing here is providing less healthcare and less of a total package to our employees. And we're going to have employees that are not going to take the healthcare that they need because they can't afford it. Do we want to be an employer that enables that, forces those tough decisions? We're going to have to work on this, but we cannot say, oh, the employees will just pay for it. We're not paying them enough money, most of them enough money to do this. And are we employing people, or are we going to keep people? I understand that we have to increase costs, but we don't have to shove more of the cost on our employees. We can stay at the same percent, and we just, as a county, we have to take those costs as they come. It's part of having a responsible employer. We do not make the market for healthcare, but we do have to deal with it every year. Are we gonna, next year when we do the 20% increase, because it will come, Are we gonna make it 25%? Maybe we should just, do a 30% for employees and see how many of them can do healthcare anymore, get their prescriptions, have their kids see the doctor when they need them. I understand this is an ugly situation for everyone, but we've got to stand up and pay our percent and keep the benefits for our employees the same, because they look at that every year and know what they can afford to do, what they can't afford to do. And now we're gonna cut what they can do. And, and they're gonna have to cut back on prescriptions, office visits, gas, I don't know. Food.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Or Vice Chair, and I've always said sometimes that I do appreciate all the work that the committee put in on this. I don't care if you're looking at, I have sisters that are in the Medicare now, that went up a big deal, so. My question is, looking forward, and we know there's gonna be increases coming for the next year after that, so. And I'm all for it, but I also gotta try to somewhat balance this budget somewhere here, so. Not sure yet if you can give me a little bit where we should take that out of. The other thing we're looking at is our biggest expenses is our employees, so. A couple of years ago, we had to go through a big cutting of employees, so do we have to cut positions to pay for this? I mean, because that is our biggest expense, one of our biggest expenses, so we know they're gonna go up next year. Unless some miracle happens, the costs aren't going to go up there, so. I will look at, options on this. I do like the expanding the plans. I know in my business, we have so many different options to look at. I mean, insurance is part of a risk mitigation factor, so. Everybody, that's the insurance deal. If we can come up with that someplace, but I'm not sure where we would take that out. Not leave us in a position where we're going to be able to handle it for next year. So I understand where you're coming from, but.
Let's see. There are 3 road patrol. That's probably $360,000 right there. That is not mandated. That would be plenty to cover the 300,000 extra in health benefits. Sorry.
Well, I'm
But
gonna
it
tell you
is
right now.
employees. I don't mean to put burden on that, but those are 3 new employees that we couldn't get.
We can vote
a
on that
vote.
right now. I think we can get to that. So anybody that's South County that's been trying to get that back, and it's been hard to do.
I would not be in favor of laying off the new road deputies.
I'm not in favor of laying off. Didn't we have 3 employees
There's more that were in the budget.
in the budget for next year?
But we
I'm
also,
not talking about laying off.
but we also heard from Director Hansen about the parks and how you had significant issues out in the park because we don't have the sheriff's deputies out there. So there's that spillover, not just, everything is all tied together when we're looking at the budget here. And so one thing affects another. We've had some significant issues at the parks. And so just wanted to point that out.
I think too is that what we've been trying to do, what Administrator Smith and Sheriff is grow back that department and get some deputies back on the road and do it in a sensible, sustainable way that's funded through the general fund. Because obviously the taxpayers were pretty clear, they don't want to pay an additional millage for that. They didn't say, we don't want law enforcement. They said, we don't want our taxes raised. You guys figure it out.
So our employees would pay that amount.
Just share one of the discussions we had, or several discussions we had in that advisory committee when we were talking self-funding. And Ed Brian has already, said in a staff report that, nobody came back with anything because of our prior claim. So didn't make any sense, right? Wasn't gonna save us any money at all, but one of the things we considered moving forward is our hope would be that some of these larger claims start dropping off, and then self-funding very well could be something that in next year, a year after, depending on if these drop off or not, if things drop off and we don't get huge claims to replace them, that very well might come into play. This very well could be something that could be temporary. You would hope that it would be temporary. You would hope that it would get better over the years. We don't know that. And without knowing that right now, and knowing that self-funding is definitely not an option. And then, of course, all the other things we looked into, we couldn't even get votes on some of them because they just said, no,
I think the size of our group too makes self-funding maybe a little more risky than a large group going that route.
I don't
I don't know.
recall what the numbers were on how many large claims we had or whatnot, but I know that played, a big factor in it. And that's why we had talked about meeting way earlier in the season next year, to see, has anything dropped off? Are we in a position now to get that quote?
Anyone else want to chime in on this? We appreciate your comments and letting us know where you stand. There's never a question about where you stand on things. So, and I do appreciate that. And we don't have to all agree on this. But if there's no more discussion, we'll move on. All right.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you. And item 11 is consider approving the budget amendment number 2026-31 BOC to increase tether payments and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
Administrator Curtis join us, or was she?
No, she's not. So this,
No problem. No problem. So this is for the community corrections grant. They reduced some of the things that they're not particularly things that they're going to cover, but the total grant award. So tether payments, we need to increase that. She wishes to use, there is fund balance to cover that, cash to cover that in that fund. So that's why you're not seeing anything else changing with it. It's just an increase to tether payments so that we continue to be able to provide that service and finish out this fiscal year.
Any questions? On that? All right. Did you have a question? Okay. Thank you. And brings us to item 12, discussion regarding fiscal year 2027 requested budget draft number 4.
Yeah, so this one before you is the balanced budget. Obviously, we were just talking about the insurance, that definitely was in our, helped balance this with the general fund. Reduce some of those expenditures. Some of the changes that were made also were back to community corrections. We just talked about this budget amendment here for current fiscal year. The courts were notified that their grant award was for fiscal year 27 has been reduced down to about 100,000 this year. So we need to, general fund needs to fund that difference then that they're going to be backing in. So that's 23,000 more that we need to push out to that fund to cover that, to be able to provide those programs and services that does, so. You see that 23,000 is an addition going out, and we increased contingency. We had reduced contingency by 150,000 there a couple rounds ago. This, we put 36,000 back, trying to keep some money sitting there. We need to have something sitting there. There's quite a few unknowns right now. So that's how we get to a balanced budget at this point. Questions? Brian, did you?
No.
Did I? Okay.
No, you did.
Make sure I
No.
touched on
This is
whatever it was.
20
you
times,
wanted,
no,
but-
thanks very much. Just those changes, you explained them well.
Okay, any questions, comments? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that bring us down to general public comments. Anyone for general public comments?
Yes, it's my time. So I just wanted to quickly reiterate, you've had several people talk about how the lack of employees greatly affected their services. We are very lucky that we have, that I invested in passive income in our office. That has put a lot of money into the general fund that we don't get back. That's distributed elsewhere. But we had an instance just a few weeks ago, our vendor, their third-party vendor that they go through that operates the credit card, they were changing the credit card company for our County Fusion website. So what happened was that credit card company found out that they were not going with them anymore because they found somebody who was more competitive. They dropped them. So we were without anybody to fulfill the credit card orders. So the phone is bombarding us. We have no way. We have somebody off on vacation because that's summer. You have two people in the office. I'm flying around doing the regular office work. I do not have time to do this. We don't have time to do those duties. They're statutory duties. We're required. They're mandated. This is where our revenue comes from, folks. So what do? Well, thank goodness I saved your bacon, boys. I have the other website. So I was able to divert these people. I've got people calling me from Ireland, the Middle East. They're all over the country that are doing these AI searches now. When AI runs into a problem, what does AI do? AI can't deal with problems. So now we have somebody in this big search center who's calling me demanding that I drop what I'm doing and make them all of these copies and email them to them. I do not have time for this. I can't do that. Thank goodness we had the other search. I diverted them to the other search, which is a cloud-based search, runs off of a different mechanism. And we're able to get them to move over there. They had to sign up for another account, which they weren't happy about, but they were able to get their copies. They got their copies. They took care of that. But that's something that you are required to make sure that I'm staffed at a satisfactory level and serviceable level, because normally those people are in my office doing that search work, and we're required to make those copies. Like we discussed before, there are times when we have had orders of 10,000 or more copies that we have to have done in a day. With two people that we're running our backsides off, I don't get lunch. We don't have time to do that. The county will get sued. As they discussed, the law requires that you do this. The law requires that you have my office at a satisfactory level. So I've proven that you do not. That's up to you. I did have one other thing that I wanted to discuss, and I know that the group has worked very hard, and you know why I don't have time to work on that committee. I just literally do not have time to do that. But I wonder if we thought about capping the top levels, because the top levels where you don't have that high risk, in the past, those have been our high expenditures. If we cap those, new employees coming in like we did with our retirement plans, we capped it. So new employees that came in couldn't get the pension plan, whatever you want to call it, capped that risk factor if at some point, because, and I completely respect your opinion, Mr. Sweeney, but we have to look at the fact that this is not going to be sustainable going down, further down the path. And having been here since the 90s, when I came in the 90s, we had 80-20, Blue Cross, 80-20. 80-20 means if you go to the hospital, they're going to pay 80% of the bill, you're going to pay 20% of the bill. If you go to the doctor, you pay the whole thing. They reimburse you after you bill them. They reimburse you 80%. We were able to be self-funded under that policy because the county's risk was lower. Margaret wanted us to have a higher beefed up plans, and that's what we have now. At that point, yes, we have better insurance. Yes, we're retaining people. But I think at that point, we did over time have a lot of high users, and we became unsustainable. We no longer are self-funded because we couldn't be, because we had too many high users. So we went off of the self-funded, we went into this new program, and at that point, there were other factors. We went into a recession, we went into COVID. The prices are increasing dramatically, and I don't think there's any way, I mean, I wish there was, but I don't see that there's any way that we can suspend or that we can continue this, because it's just not sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for general public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay. Seeing no one else for general public comment, announcements, commissioners, any announcements? Very, no one for announcements. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Don't move, Laredo.
Support Jellison.
Supported, all those in favor say aye.